This is the Force Unscripted. I am so happy to be here again with the second part of our Ahsoka series, our little two-part series that we have talking about the intricacies of the series itself, what we liked, what we don't like, all the cool stuff. Me and Hunter have been absolutely geeking out about this show. It's just been a fantastic, Star Wars media, and it's one of those things that, as I say every week, it makes us really geek out about this kind of stuff. And so I'm happy to get to continue our conversation about the Ahsoka series. So Hunter, what were your thoughts on that finale?
The finale I thought it was good. It was a very big cliffhanger, literally for some people. And there's a lot of unanswered questions. I really hope that there's a season 2. I didn't see if there was an announcement for season 2. I know there's going to be the movie coming eventually to, tie it all together. But there were definitely a lot of plot lines that were left, open-ended. And I'm excited to see where it goes. But I'm not disappointed with how it ended. I think I was worried that they were going to try and wrap it up too quickly in that last episode. So I'm glad that the plot lines were kind of left cliffhangery, because I was worried that it was just going to be too rushed and the quality was going to drop there at the end.
I think that was something that we were all kind of worried about, or at least like the diehard Star Wars fans, because you're right, there are a lot of plot points that they didn't kind of tie up. So that makes me think that there is going to be another season, because there's so much, like, what happens to Shin, what is Baylan going for, what's Thrawn about to do when he realizes that Anakin Skywalker's son is the person who overthrew the entire empire. Like, there's a lot there to kind of unpack, and that's basically some of the stuff that I wanted to kind of hint at and talk about during this episode. The biggest thing that I really want to mention and start off with is Baylan. I was very interested to see where his character was headed. We had the talk about how he's not a Sith, he's a Dark Jedi, and he did a lot of interesting things. I kind of saw, if I'm being honest with you, I kind of saw that coming with the Shin thing. I really did believe Bonk Bonk's prediction in the bonus episode, last episode, about how he was saying that he thought that Shin was going to kill Baylan. And for a while, like, I really thought that, but more so I figured he was going to deviate from wherever Thrawn was headed. That was one thing that I felt like for sure was going to happen, and it ended up happening, and I thought that was pretty cool. There's been a lot of speculation about what he's going after. I've seen all sorts of theories. I tend to stand by the fact that because we got Anakin involved in this with the World Between Worlds and him assuming the role of the father, and speculation that Ahsoka is the daughter, I really do think that he is seeking Abeloth.
Is it even speculation that she's the daughter? Because she's got the life force of the daughter. Morai follows her around, and we even see Morai at the end there. Like, is it really speculation that she's the daughter?
Okay, then who's the son? You can't have the daughter without the son. That's what makes me...
That's true, but the statues at the end indicate that the daughter is dead, and the son, we assume he's dead. We know he's dead from what happened in the Clone Wars, but clearly he hasn't been, like, reincarnated. So we've got Anakin is now the father. We're saying he's the father. Ahsoka is the daughter, and they've both been, like, reincarnated, dead, and then become the thing, because Ahsoka did die. So
I'm getting my Star Killer.
I'm not saying anything about Star Killer.
I'm getting my Star Killer.
Saying
it only
I'm
makes
not
sense.
Saying anything about Star Killer.
I don't care what you're not saying. I'm getting my Star Killer.
But maybe we just haven't seen the son yet. Maybe he isn't born. Maybe Shin will be the son, or maybe Baylan will take that role. I mean, Baylan is trying to be the father, clearly. We see that when he's standing on the father's hand. He's trying to take that role of the balance. We see, like, he's not as ambitious as Shin, and he's not as, like, calm and collected as Ahsoka is, at least after, she worked with Anakin in the World Between Worlds. So he's definitely going for that middle ground balance, Jedi but dark Jedi kind of thing. But I don't think he's obviously not gonna make the cut, because Anakin already has taken that role. So potentially when he's, like, rejected or turned down or whatever, maybe he'll get angry for the first time. Maybe he'll show us some, like, loss of composure. That'd be cool to see. Obviously, it's going to have to be recasted. Unfortunate, RIP. But there's promise for where it could go from here.
Yeah, that's true. And just to like kind of follow up on what I was saying before that little part is I really do think that he's seeking Abeloth or whatever the I don't know if Abeloth is going to be in canon, but I think he's seeking whatever the equivalent, whatever the Force deity equivalent of Abeloth in canon would be. There's also
What
some
is
people.
Abeloth?
Abeloth was a Force deity in the Legends timeline that was locked in the Maw, which is in the Kessel system. And it's a cluster of black holes that was moved there by Centerpoint Station to hold her in check. It's like literally a black hole prison, essentially. The only way to get into the Maw is to navigate through the cluster of black holes, which seems impossible, but Luke Skywalker did it with just the Force, and they found the Maw installation, which is like an area inside of this cluster that's somehow normal. They sent Admiral Dalla there. She was the one who developed or helped develop super weapons with Quizux, who in the Legends timeline is who developed the Death Star, but they changed who developed the Death Star in Legends. And so Abeloth was trapped in there during that time. She kind of messed with a lot of the young Jedi at the time, invading their mind and kind of planting herself in there so that they would seek her. And she ended up terrorizing the galaxy. Luke ends up killing her 4 different times. Saba ends up ripping her throat out one time, which is still one of my favorite moments in the Legends timeline. And she's just a menace. But her whole story was that the father existed with the daughter and the son, and she was like a maid or something, like a housemaiden or something.
Yeah, she became one of them because of she drank from the well of, or the fountain of wisdom and power, right? She drank from both of them and she became like them through the fountains.
Yes, she did.
Yeah.
But she became corrupted by them. And so the father saw that she was no longer the person that they had come to love as a part of their family. So they locked her away. She became a backdoor hoe, literally.
And the son and the daughter were the keys to keeping her in prison. So they would once every, was it a couple hundred years, like 500, or was it 1,000? Every so often they would go to the Killiks, and Killiks are like a hive mind insect like species. They would go to the Killiks and they would mind meld. They would merge their minds, the son and daughter, with the Killiks, and they would like re-up the protections that were holding Abeloth in place. So when the son and daughter died in Clone Wars, that was the catalyst for her being released from the prison, like the initial catalyst. And the reason that those children were affected and like drawn to her is because the Jedi hid the children in the Maw. They didn't know Abeloth was there. They hid them in the Maw, like, was it during Vong War, right?
Yep,
Or was
it was during the it was during the Yuuzhan Vong War.
Yeah, so just during the Vong War, and then Abeloth was able to affect their minds because they're basically in the prison with her almost. Like, they're just outside the prison, outside the walls, so she was able to connect with them. And then they were drawn back through the Maw to try and, release her, which obviously eventually she is released and terrorizes the galaxy. She does pull a similar kind of thing to Palpatine, where she tries to take over the Galactic Senate, but she's a little better at it because she can shape shift of sorts, like take over people's bodies and shapes. So she is able to impersonate people, whereas Palps had to actually be himself.
I think they both did it excellently. They had their own ways, but Abeloth was definitely a lot I don't even want to say sneakier. It was just a lot more straightforward. Like if you knew what she was doing. Because Luke knew what she was doing.
It was aggressive for sure. She was definitely like hardcore, we're taking over the galaxy right now kind of thing. Whereas Palpatine was like, I have a plan.
Palpatine's plan spanned over like 17 years. She did it in a couple of months. She was like, I'm going for it. But yeah, so yeah, I definitely think that he was searching Abeloth or whatever the canon equivalent would be. There was also another theory that I read is that he's trying to pull a Darth Nihilus from Knights of the Old Republic 2 and destroy the Force, which I thought might be a little ostentatious of a theory. However, I don't want to doubt anything because I have seen how Disney will take and pull certain things from Legends stuff, EU stuff, and kind of incorporate them. So I don't want to completely push that theory out of the thing. I don't think it's likely, but I thought it was interesting to hear that, like to see that 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 Balin would be trying to destroy the Force. That would be that would be quite interesting if they actually did that. I would like to see how they would push that through.
I think it's more likely than I think you're underestimating the likeliness of that, just because earlier in the series he did kind of the way he was talking indicated that he was actually trying to destroy the Force. He was trying to end it all. He was trying to stop the cycle. Those were his words, I believe, or very close to his words. So I do think at the end we see that blinking light in the distance, surrounded by the mountain ranges, which does look eerily similar to how Mortis looked from, zoomed out perspective. But I do think that it's not as far-fetched as you think. If he's not looking for Abeloth or the equivalent, I do think he's looking for like the quote-unquote origin of the Force, and he is trying to end the Force. Obviously, the Mortis gods were part of this galaxy too, because their statues are there. They wouldn't be there if they didn't have some role in this galaxy. So potentially even Mortis was here or came from here. There's a lot of tie-ins there. So I mean, it could be the origin of the Force, or it could be the most evil thing we've ever seen.
So I'm glad you mentioned that, because that brings me to my next point, which is I have a theory that Mortis sort of functions like in a way that possibly Zonama Sikot did. If you remember Zonama Sikot, the living planet from the Legends timeline.
Yeah, give me a refresher on that one.
So for those of you who don't know, Zonama Sikot was a living planet, like a Force-enriched planet that Obi-Wan and Anakin stumble upon about 6 years before the Clone Wars stops. And there is a Jedi Knight there. Her name is Vergere. And this is the first, like, they're called the Outsiders. We see them attack the planet Zonama Sikot in this series, and they're called the Outsiders, but we found out later that those are indeed the Yuzong Vong. But what was cool about this planet is that it had these seeds that would attach themselves to people who were going to have a ship. You had to have seeds to make a ship. Now, Anakin, being Anakin, he had 9 seeds that attached to him, which was unprecedented. Most people would have like 2, 4 would be the max, but he had 9. So that meant his ship that would be created from those seeds would just be like super powerful in the Force, tied to him. Absolutely amazing. It was a great story. But basically the planet, being a living planet, also had like its own living hyperdrive that it could jump, but it would destroy the planet briefly, and because it's a planet jumping through hyperspace, and then it would sit there, rest for a while, and then rebuild itself. And so during the Yuzong Vong War, they think that this planet, since the whole thing about the Vong is living technology, sort of, it's not technology because they consider like technology an abomination, but this is like a living thing, so they're okay with it. They figured that the Jedi, at least, figured that this planet has some connection to the Vong and some secret to defeating the Vong. So they go out and search for this planet that kind of moves around the galaxy. So it's really hard. So they had to like go through archives in the Chiss Ascendancy to try to figure out sightings of this planet, like where it had come from, where was it last seen, how long was it seen. So when I saw the fact that the Mortis statues were there, I was wondering if maybe the realm exists in kind of like the same way, or in something similar, where it's like a realm that can move between galaxies, that can go from one place to another. Or if it's just simply there's like a Mortis outpost here, there's a Mortis outpost in the other galaxy, there's Mortis outposts across the Star Wars like universe, and those were the 2 theories that I came up with. But I would think it would be really cool if they somehow tied in Mortis's existence to Zonama Sikot, because that would be really cool in my opinion, because I loved the entire story of that, how they tied in Zonama Sikot with Vergere before the Clone Wars, turn the Outsiders into the Yuzong Vong, which we see in the New Jedi Order. And so I think it would be a really good tie-in to bring to the canon timeline. I don't know if you had any thoughts on that.
Yeah, so, and talking about those like ships, if you've ever played the game No Man's Sky, they have living ships that basically fit the bill. Anyone that's ever played that will kind of know what a living ship is. It's like that. But I just had another thought along the lines of like the moving planet and whatnot. What if the place that Balin is going to is actually where like the world between worlds is? What if that's like the engine for the world between worlds, or even like the host for the world between worlds? So he's going to the physical location where the world between worlds like resides, but you can access it from anywhere through the Force or through those portals because they were tied to the Mortis gods. For instance, that mural that Ezra used. Maybe that just gives you access to the physical place that is the world between worlds, and maybe that's where Anakin is waiting. I mean, we did see Anakin's ghost on the planet, so he is capable of going to the other galaxy through the Force. I mean, why wouldn't he be able to? It's the Force. But maybe Balin's trying to destroy the world between worlds.
I feel like that theory has some credibility for sure. Absolutely. I also think that in regards to the planet itself, the planet has to have some kind of significance past when Thrawn leaves. Just by the fact that the Night Sisters are there.
The Night Sisters wanted to escape. They were running away from something. They were afraid. There was like a darkness on the planet that they were trying to get away from. They kind of mention it very briefly when they're
Oh, I
talking
might
to
have missed
Thrawn.
that. Okay.
So, and all those little stasis pods, I think those are Night Sisters because they mentioned that Thrawn woke up the three that he woke up from stasis. So they were in stasis, and then I think all those other pods are other sisters, and they're trying to get their people away from whatever scared them enough that the A went into stasis, and B are trying to escape to a completely different galaxy. They're afraid of something, and Thrawn also does not want to deal with whatever it is they're afraid of.
That just makes me think that it's more reason to believe that it's Abeloth, because Abeloth was a scary creature.
Right, exactly. Like there's definite signs that it is something big and important and scary.
I was just gonna ask, where do the sisters draw their power from? Is it the Force or is it something else entirely?
It's still the Force. It's just the way that they channel the Force is more through like spells, not quite alchemy. It's like there are different interpretations throughout the Star Wars universe on how to be a conduit of the Force. So you have like the Jinsari, you have the Fallen Nasi, you have the Jedi, you have the Witches of Dathomir, and you also have the Night Sisters, which the Witches of Dathomir and the Night Sisters are basically the same thing, just kind of like a very small, tiny difference. But it's just that they are Force users. They just, the culture of which they come from affects how they are a conduit to the Force.
Think like warlocks, sorcerers, wizards, that kind of thing from like Dungeons and Dragons. You know the difference between those? Some are like more innate, some use the spells, that kind of thing. I think it's more like that. They all use magic of some kind, but they have different ways of accessing it.
Okay.
So yeah, I always call them the of Dathomir, especially after playing Jedi Fallen Order, and just because of some of the stuff that they do in the series. But yeah, they're still Force users. They're more aligned with the dark side. That is their thing. So like the different, I guess, factions, Force factions, you can call them. So like the Witches of Dathomir, the Night Sisters, they lean more towards the dark side. The Jedi and the Fallen Nasi lean more toward the light side, or in the Fallen Nasi's case, the white current. And then the Jinsari are like somewhere in between. They're like more gray. So they all kind of have their leanings. One other thing that I kind of wanted to mention, because I thought it was so funny that, what was it, I think it was episode 4, when we get Ahsoka the White, like in the white robes, that everyone just started calling her Ahsoka the White. And then I sat there and I was talking to my friend Gabby about this. And I was like, did they rip off Tolkien that hard? And we were sitting there and talking about it. And I was thinking I was like, I mean, yeah, technically, because it was Ahsoka. She fell into like an abyss, into the ocean, and then came back the white. And I was just thinking about like Gandalf, like he was like, run you fools, fell into the chasm and came back Gandalf the White. I was like, Star Wars literally ripped off Lord of the Rings.
And if you look at the episode title for episode 8, the Jedi, the Witch, and the Warlord, that's 100% a tie to Narnia. And
Yeah.
Lewis and Tolkien were good friends. Like it's all a tie in there. They were good friends. They were buddies. So like Tolkien, Narnia, that kind of stuff. It's all tied in right there.
Yeah, a beautiful culmination of sci-fi love. It was so funny. I was just sitting there thinking, I was like, huh, yeah, they definitely ripped off Lord of the Rings. It was pretty good.
What did you think about Ezra's new lightsaber? incorporating that identical piece that
Oh,
Kanan says.
the Canaan emitter. I love
Yeah.
that. That warmed my heart. It almost brought a tear to my eyes, especially when I forget what the droid's name is,
Hu Yang.
but he. Oh yeah, Hu Yang. He was like, I only had one left for when he came back, and I was like, aw. But yeah,
I
I
thought that
thought.
was a very touching moment in the
And
series.
he did it so fast too. Oh, let's talk about how much faith Ezra has in Sabine, because the first time she ever uses the Force, she's like using it in assistance to like push open a door, and like they get it open, but then immediately she's like, all right, jump over this big ass gap onto that Star Destroyer and I'm gonna push you. I would have been like, please, you just got your Force powers. I am not about to let you do this. But the faith that he had, and she pulled it off too. I was so proud of her. That was awesome. That was honestly awesome.
I really like that, and I didn't think it was too far-fetched, because in episode 5, Empire Strikes Back, we see Luke struggle to pull his lightsaber out of the snow as the Yeti, I forget the name of the Yeti, is coming after him, right?
Oh, the Wampa?
Yeah, the Wampa is coming after him in the cave, and he's struggling to get that lightsaber. And his life, the closer his life is to being in danger, the more he's able to pull it. And eventually he gets it, cuts himself free, and defeats the Wampa. Well, Sabine, same thing. She's getting choked out. She hasn't been able to use the Force so far, trying to like meditate and concentrate and that kind of thing. But when her life is in danger, she's able to access the Force. She's able to bring the lightsaber to herself to save herself in her like time of greatest need. But then she has the feel for it. Now she's like, oh, that's what the Force feels like. Okay, I think I can use it to push. You know, I did a pull. Let's try a push. You know, when you've done something for the first time correctly, you kind of get a feel for it, and then you can like replicate, do it again, that kind of thing. That's the repetition makes, practice makes
Like
perfect kind of deal.
like riding a bike.
Yeah, so like, and exactly, once you take off the training wheels and you start going the first time, and all of a sudden you're pedaling down the street and your dad's screaming in the background, like, yeah, same kind of thing. You get a feel for it, and then you can keep going, keep going. So she just kept up that momentum and pushed him across. I didn't think it was too far fetched.
No, I didn't think it was far fetched at all. I just think I was just saying Ezra has a lot of faith in her, because ain't no way I'm gonna let a new push me across a ledge like that. Ain't no way.
But
I'm sorry.
Did he even know? Did he even know? Did she tell him that she was weak in the Force? I don't think she did. So he was just like,
No,
oh, she's been training with Ahsoka. She must know what she's doing.
Maybe, but the way that he was talking to her before made it seem like he also knew, when they were like discussing it with I forget what the race of the Noti, is that what they're called?
The Noti, yeah.
Yeah, I think he knew. I think he knew. Also, that's the kind of thing like a Jedi would pick up on if someone's like not strong in the Force.
I guess maybe he just picked up on the fact that she had tapped into it finally and was now like understanding things. And she lets go of her like attachment to Ezra there, which I thought was a great redeeming moment for her, especially after we had just gotten the speech, or the little talk from Ahsoka, where she's like, my master always stood by me no matter what mistakes I made, no matter what choices I made, and he was the only one that stood by me. So I'm going to stand by you even though you messed up. And Sabine realizes, like, yeah, I really wanted to see Ezra. That was the thing holding me back. But now I've saved Ezra. I've seen him. I'm sending him home. Now my place is here with my master. I'm here to learn. I'm ready to become what I'm meant to be. And I think that's why she senses, or maybe even sees, I don't know if she sees, but senses Anakin's ghost there, is because she's kind of become part of that legacy. Anakin, Yoda, Dooku, Obi-Wan, Qui-Gon. She's become part of that legacy, and now she's let go. She's becoming the Jedi that, she was being trained to be.
I will say, not necessarily the plot points that they closed, but the stuff that they did like kind of round out towards the end there were done really well. I was so happy to get to see Hayden Christensen again at the end as another Force ghost. Like I said, one of the things that we never got in the Legends timeline was Anakin as a Force ghost. We got him that one time when he apologized to Leia, and that was it. Now we've seen him multiple times. It makes me happy. It makes me think that they're going to have more tie-ins with him. I really want him to come out the way, okay, so in episode 5, when Obi-Wan and Yoda are talking, and Obi-Wan's like, he was our last hope, and Yoda's like, no, there is another. I really want Anakin to come out to Ahsoka or something and be like, I was the only one you trained, and then he'd be like, no, there is another. And then that's when we get Starkiller and the sun, and I'll be happy, and then I rub it in your face and call you a little
If it happens, I'll eat my words yet again. I'll take the fall.
Hey, look, I only derive happiness when I can get you to eat your words. It's just a beautiful moment, man.
Look, I don't mind being wrong. Actually, I prefer to be wrong because some of my theories I hate and then I'm right and then it makes me sad because I didn't want it to be true.
They're never gonna make Star Killer canon. They couldn't. He was too broken. I know. So even in the Legends timeline, the Force Unscripted, the Force Unleashed 2 was not canon. The Force Unleashed, the first one was. The second one was just a game that they made for money, and it was a cool story. But the first one actually is canon to the Legends, if that makes sense. But I just think he would be too. They would have to nerf him hardcore if they wanted to make him an actual character. So I don't think that he'll actually be. I mean, I'ma still hope, but
I think the Inquisitors were meant to be Starkiller's replacement in canon. I think the Inquisitors were what they decided to go with instead of giving Vader an apprentice. Just give him the Inquisitors, let him kill him off as need be. Same kind of vibes, like I'm way better than you, and as soon as you fail me, you're gone, you're cut, literally. So I don't think they'll bring in Starkiller. I don't have high hopes for Starkiller. Will they bring in Sam Witwer to voice something? Probably. Absolutely. He's too good at what he does.
that is
He's
a
a great
beautiful man.
exactly. He's great in everything he's done for Star Wars, and I hope we see him some more. What did you think about Morgan? Morgan's level up there at the end.
So my favorite part of that whole thing with Morgan Elsbeth was the sword itself, because if you know anything about the Jedi of 25,000 years before that time, before lightsabers were a thing, when people were still shooting bullets in the Star Wars universe, they had force imbued swords. And it really made me think about that, the Sword of Talzin, and like that time period of way back when, which is also another thing that makes me think that like Abeloth or some kind of force deity is coming, because force imbued swords are something that have been gone for tens of thousands of years. And I don't know that exactly that it's a force imbued sword, but I mean, it seems like it would be. Like, what else would it be? Like a dark, even if it's like a dark energy infused, it's still a power infused sword, which is not iconic to that time period, but the time period of whatever the High Republic, whatever you want to call it at this point, even before the High Republic, actually. This was when Jedi and Sith were still together as just Force users before they split off into factions. So I really love that scene. I really enjoyed the fight choreography between her and Ahsoka as well. But I plot armor is a bitch sometimes, cause ain't no way I'm sitting there with a force imbued sword versus like my quote unquote mortal enemy and letting two little Padawans or as actually is Ezra a knight? Did Ezra ever get knighted?
Yeah,
He did.
he's full knight. He's full
Okay,
knight.
so see two
There's
little
no, well,
weaklings.
he's a Boken Jedi. They use that term Boken Jedi. He's a Boken Jedi. He is a full Jedi, but he is trained non-traditionally.
Yeah, so there's no way I let those two walk behind me, walk past me.
You know, we've seen that happen before though. We've seen like somebody, is like, I got this, and then the other person runs off. We see that a lot in Star Wars. They like their one-on-ones. They do those quite often. I do like that Morgan was able to destroy one of Ahsoka's sabers. I think it showed her skill, and we've seen her skill before. We saw that she was really good with that Beskar spear back in The Mandalorian. So we saw like a preview of her actually being a warrior. She's not just a force wielding witch lady or witch descendant. She actually had some skill, in hand to hand combat. So I wasn't too incredulous at the fact that she was going toe to toe with Ahsoka, because we've seen her do it before. And now she has more powers, more abilities. The force is flowing through her. Her sword is glowing green with the Night Sister magic. I mean, she's definitely got some powerful tools on her side. Plus the zombie troopers.
The Zombie Troopers was really cool. Shout out to Joe Schreiber, one of my favorite Star Wars authors, for doing the Death Troopers book. It only reminded me of that. I was actually so happy to see that.
Why didn't they just cut their limbs off and stuff? Come on, Disney. Just cut off the heads. Like stop hitting them in places that aren't going to be, fatal, quote unquote, to a zombie. Like cut off their legs so they can't come after you.
No one ever explained zombie theory crafting to the Jedi of the Star Wars universe.
Clearly.
Apparently, blasters didn't even leave a mark on the zombies either, because like I was watching some of it and it hit them, they'd go down. You wouldn't even see like burn mark or anything. So
I did not notice that. I didn't notice that they didn't have the burn marks. I mean, obviously noticed that they didn't really go down, but I didn't notice that they didn't have burn marks. That's an interesting point. Those two actual death troopers, the ones in black armor, which I think was either Beskar or Cortosis, because of the sound it made when they got hit. Them being zombies was cool. Watching a death trooper with half a face choking out Sabine, like that's a crazy scary scene right there. I mean, I would be terrified if there's a dude with a half a face and his like guts and tongue and throat and everything are just like dripping out of his helmet. That's disgusting.
It's also
And
my
he's
new
choking me
kink.
out.
Yeah,
What?
that's my new kink. It's my new kink. Are you telling me you wouldn't want to get choked out by a zombie?
nah, I'm gonna pass on that one, Chief.
I'm not. That's a way to go. It's death on death. Delicious.
What do you think Shin's plan or Shin's like next steps are when she ended up at that like raider camp and raised her saber? You think she was like trying to take over the camp? You think she was trying to join the camp and telling them she was a friend or something? Like what do you think she was doing
100% take over.
Yeah, I think she's about to
Okay.
slaughter them, honestly. I think she's about to pull an Anakin v Tusken Raiders.
She's like, you failed me. I'm about to kill all of you. We should have taken them out and now I look bad. Okay.
I didn't think that she was going to get left, honestly.
I did. When she ran away from that fight with Ahsoka, I was like, oh, she's gone. She's done. She's stuck here on this planet. She's going to have to go find Balin again and be like, please, master, please let me join you. He's going to be like, you're too ambitious.
Or maybe Bonk Bonk's theory is correct and she's going to go back and find him and be upset because she's stuck on the planet
she
and
got
finally kill him. Yeah.
That's totally viable. The question is, she was given the offer to join Ahsoka, and then maybe that will be the thing. Maybe she's like torn in the next season. Maybe she's torn between choosing being, composed and light side or just full ambition, power, I want it all kind of thing. It was tough watching her get abandoned by her master when clearly she's like super attached to him. She doesn't do anything without his permission. Anytime she's confused about anything, she asks him a question about it. She's very tied to her master, and the fact that he's just like, go off, don't be too hasty, good luck, and just drops her right there. I mean, that's gotta be tough for somebody, especially in a different galaxy, like no way home except for Thrawn, and he's trying to leave.
Yeah, dude, I get freaked out when I get left at a Walmart 5 miles from my house. Can't imagine being in a whole different galaxy.
Yeah, that'd be terrifying.
I think she might pull a Zek, because Zek was with the Shadow Academy for a while, like very firmly on the dark side, and then like got redeemed and still couldn't be with the Jedi, so he does his own like kind of soul searching, goes through the motions of different stuff that he wants to be, and then eventually comes back. I think it would be cool if she did something like that, like, because she is firmly on the dark side right now for the most part, or at least teetering from there, and now she's confused, so she has no more direction. And like you said, Ahsoka did leave that offer out there for her, and so it's very possible that she considers it, at least tries to change her direction, but ultimately ends up doing that. So I would believe that, because I mean, if Zek can do it, then so can she. Because I feel like Zek was farther gone than she is right now, because Zek killed a bunch of people, attacked Yavin 4 with the Second Imperium and the Shadow Academy. So
We don't have any like history of what she's done, so she could be like firmly on that path. We've only seen her do a few things, like choking out Sabine, in retaliation for getting her butt whooped, and then attacking, Ahsoka and them and being hasty about it. But we haven't really seen her do a ton. She would have been very out of place if she had gone back. The Night Sisters and her were not getting along. There were definitely tension vibes going on there. And I don't think Thrawn honestly wanted her back. I think he thinks the Jedi and Sith both are just too volatile, too unpredictable for him to use as like effective tools in his plan. The sisters are different because he has something they want, which is a way back to the galaxy, and now they're kind of indebted to him because he's bringing them to Dathomir and whatnot. But Shin, I mean, he could send her on a mission and she could just say, no, peace, I'm going to give all your plans up. I'm actually going to go to the good side. I've changed my mind. I'm a Jedi now. They're just too unpredictable for Thrawn to use, and Thrawn would not like a tool like that. And he does think of everyone as tools. Everyone is just a tool in his toolbox, like the stormtroopers and whatnot.
And I'm actually glad that you brought him up too, because he's what I kind of want to, like, the last topic that I want to talk about for today is just Thrawn as like we get to see his true like not his true military might, but a glimpse at how smart he is. The guy will take a calculated loss and even like an uncalculated loss, not flinch for a moment and still make the best possible plan. Now, he did flinch at the one moment when he found out who Ahsoka's master was, which is why I'm excited to see him get back to the other galaxy and find out about Luke. But I mean, absolute like tactical genius. That's something that I've always admired about Thrawn, and I want him to get back to the universe, link up with Pelayan, like we know he does in Legends. I want to see the Imperial Remnant, the First Order, whatever you call it. I want to see what happens, like how the First Order comes about completely, or how Thrawn influences the First Order, or what happens to the Imperial Remnant. Because one thing that I loved about the Legends timeline was the redemption of the Empire. You know, same thing happens. They get fractured after Palpatine goes kaput. There's a bunch of warlords trying to claim territory. Moff's going crazy. Thrawn comes back and get them under one flag once again. But then he gets defeated eventually, so they splinter again, go off to their own Imperial Remnant, and kind of adopt a policy of isolationism as far as the galaxy is concerned. But when the threat of the Vong comes back, because Pelayan is such a smart man and learned from Thrawn, is willing to forego the Imperial history to form the Galactic Alliance, one like no iteration of the galaxy had ever seen before. That was something that I loved about the Empire, and I want to see if something similar will happen in canon. Because if that did, that would be, I mean, that would feel like total complete fulfillment for me as far as the Empire is concerned. I would love to see that.
I think it would have to be during Rey's movie, the future
Yeah.
Rey's movie.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
absolutely.
Yeah, we've seen the First Order fall. We've seen that they're not going to join with the New Republic. Obviously, they try and take over, destroy. They destroy like 5 inner core planets. I mean, they're definitely not friends at all. And I don't think Thrawn would ever kind of go that route either. It would have to be in Rey's timeline that there's some galactic threat that needs to be dealt with. We'll see. That's like years in the future.
I'm excited. I'm definitely excited. I want them to. They've got to have a season 2, or they've got to have another series that follows up on Ahsoka. But I'm really excited to see what happens, because I really want to know what happened to Ahsoka by the time the sequel trilogy comes around. Because we don't know at the moment.
We'll find out. The Filoni movie it's going to tie it all together, including Skeleton Crew, which hasn't come yet.
I'm so excited. Also, one point that I wanted to mention to you and see what your thoughts on it. So you know how Ahsoka has the recordings of Anakin with like the lightsaber stuff, and what if because we know she goes and talks to Luke at least 1 or 2 times. What if she showed those to Luke, and that's how Luke became such like a bona fide, or part of how he became like a bona fide lightsaber master? I wonder what he would think of getting to see the footage of his father, because he doesn't really get that in Legends Timeline. He gets a few of Obi-Wan from the archives, but not of his father. What do you think about that?
That's a good point. I don't know, maybe, but I feel like I don't know, man. I want to know what made Luke so afraid. Like in the future, so afraid that he's willing to like almost kill Kylo just to keep him from potentially going down the wrong path. Even just for a split second. What things did he learn? What does he know that caused him to be so afraid for his new Jedi Order? It would be interesting if he's seen those recordings. And there's more that we've only seen the one. There's could be plenty of other information that he imparts in those recordings, and he may already have them because Ahsoka has already met with him at this point. This is after she's met with Grogu and Luke, so there's a good chance he may have seen them. I mean, she would want to impart that knowledge to him. He isn't master, but he's the only master, so he kind of gives himself the role, unless Yoda's like, oh, you're a master now, through the Force ghostiness. Yeah, we'll see. And maybe even Anakin's ghost will appear to him. Well, we don't know. It would be definitely cool to see Luke again in that Filoni movie. Although I'd prefer if we didn't. I'd prefer if other people resolved the galaxy's problems rather than just bringing in Luke in like the grand finale where he destroys all the robots.
Hey, I still love that scene, honestly.
It was so good. It was so good. It was very good. I just don't want it to happen again. It was awesome. I just don't want it to happen again. Like it's some trope that they're just gonna throw in. Oh, the big bad's here. Everything's going to shit. Bring in Luke. Bring in Luke. Luke's here. He's back. Look at that X-wing. Here comes that X-wing.
Also, can we just appreciate the fact that in like, I don't know, like a 4-year span, the amount of Mandalorian Jedi in the galaxy just kind of skyrocket infinitesimally from 0 to 2? Do you know what that curve looks like? It's straight up, brother. Hey, do you know who
Mine
my
personally
favorite
is Wenchi.
Mandalorian Jedi is?
Is it Cat
No.
or is it Jusek?
No. I guess technically it's not a Mandalorian, but is a Jedi trained in the Mandalorian ways.
Jaina?
Jaina f***ing Solo.
She's not Mandalorian. Not even a little bit.
Okay, but she was trained Mandalorian, so it
That's
counts.
like me watching a video of a guy on YouTube using a broadsword. I'm now a medieval knight, which is
Okay.
bullshit.
You could, though.
I'm not a
Absolutely
medieval
bullshit.
knight just because I watched a video about some fighting.
You can't prove that in a court of law.
I definitely think I could.
Well, any last points here that we want to mention before we tie off the main episode?
Ezra in the stormtrooper armor.
Plot armor is I was mad about that. Okay, so yes, because I have two theories about that. One, plot armor is and I'm pissed because how the does he escape a regiment like Thrawn's on an Imperial shuttle and get out? Or two, it's exactly like I thought, and Thrawn and Ezra are together, and this is part of the plan.
It would be a callback to the first episode, that very first scene where.
Yeah, you're right.
yeah.
You're right.
I think because one of my predictions that I made in the first episode was that Thrawn and Ezra are like in league, like because there's no way they've been there for that long and haven't interacted. Like it just doesn't make any sense. And when I saw that scene, it just didn't make any sense because I know how Thrawn operates. Either that ship is tracked, and like Thrawn knows, or like Thrawn's in league with Ezra in some manner. Because it just how. Like, I don't understand how that he would make it. It just doesn't make any sense. It's got something's up.
The ship was definitely jarring for me. Like, him in the stormtrooper armor, him impersonating a stormtrooper, classic as. But the ship, I was very confused when he pulled up in a shuttle. I was like, how did he get off the Chimera without dying? And why isn't Thrawn worried about it at all? Why isn't he mentioning like, oh shit, we brought Ezra back with us. I'm screwed again. But you're right. He totally could be in league. He just, the way he acted seemed like classic Ezra. He seemed completely the same. So if he is on Thrawn's side, Ezra is like the best actor there is.
Ezra also wasn't really questioning Sabine on like how she got there. She'd just say it's complicated, and he's like, okay, we'll talk about something else.
That's pretty characteristic of Ezra, though. Honestly,
he trusts her.
It is a little sus. It definitely is a little sus, but that is true to Ezra's character. At least I can verify that. But I just don't. Yeah, I just don't. It don't make sense that he was able to sneak off the Chimera with no consequences, like none.
And he's just escorted in by 2 A-wings. Like, would he send out a Jedi code just like Baylan did? Like, come on. And then he pulls up and they don't know it's him when he steps out. They're confused. So
Chopper
what did he tell them to? I know Chopper knows, but why
war
didn't
criminals recognize war criminals? That's what it is. Game recognized game, motherfucker.
What transmission did he send to let them, for them to allow him to land? Or maybe that was the shuttle that Baylan used, and I don't know, man. Yeah, it's just weird. That was definitely a weird moment. But him in the trooper armor, that's classic Ezra.
Yeah, because he does it twice in Rebels, I'm pretty sure, if not more.
Yeah, he's got like a collection of helmets and whatnot. I mean, that's his shtick.
All right, everyone. Well, that has been our main episode 5, Ahsoka Part 2. Thank you guys so much for being here and listening. We really appreciate it. But this has been The Force Unscripted. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.